What to sell to the federal government now that DEI is dead. Before you potentially panic or you think, well, maybe the president doesn't like black people. While, I'm going to read it for you verbatim, there is this executive order ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. That does not mean that you can't sell a product or service to the federal government. I have been in this space since 2007. During his first term, he also signed an executive order banning DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion training. So this is not really a surprise unless potentially you weren't in the space during his first term. I was still in business. KPC is still thriving. So I'm here to help you to determine what to sell, how to best sell to the government, knowing there is this focus on eradicating diversity and inclusion throughout. So what does this mean for you and what should you sell? Number one, sell products and services that are not controversial. Here's some great examples. There was an opportunity to sell dog food to Department of State in Guatemala. That's not controversial. Somebody's got to feed the dogs, and what are the dogs used for? To make sure no one's smuggling. Even if you don't live in Guatemala, you can still bid on it. It's dog food. Some other things that are non-controversial. Products and services to bureaus of prison. Anticipate where funding will go. Funding's not going toward anything relating to diversity and equity, so in turn, funding's going to go toward prisons, border, wall, construction of things that make sense based on the president's agenda. So bureaus of prison, they purchase a ton of products and services. I have actually interviewed amazing GovCon winners who have not only sold to bureaus of prison, but there was a gentleman who actually was once incarcerated and has since sold rice to bureaus of prison. So they buy everything. You can sell to them on Sam.Gov and or on Unison, at least on those two sites. And depending, you may be able to get them to use a government purchase card for a smaller acquisition, which is typically under $10,000. Anytime there's a change in administration, we follow their agenda. That's where the money goes. It's how it works. It's up to you to decide if you want to pivot or not. If you want to be mad, or maybe you're super happy. That's great, either way. But at the end of the day, if you want the most amazing country out there to serve and be your client, then it's time to really focus in on these areas. So another area is around buildings and leases. But hear me out, because I know in my Facebook group, some have a building or lease contract, and I think one individual said it was rolled back. I know some have been canceled. But hear me out. Buildings and leases that make sense. What would make sense for this president and for this administration? Buildings and leases where they're holding things that pertain to the warfighter. Buildings that make sense in terms of maybe they're agents for ICE or Homeland Security. That's what I'm referring to. If it's a lease for minority something, no. If it's a lease for IRS agents, no. It's about business. That's what this is about. Do you want to buy a Christmas tree in June? Maybe. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe you're really big into Christmas trees and June is the time that you buy a Christmas tree. I promise you most people aren't. So then why would the federal government want to spend money on building leases or on other leases when it's not something that they're for? It doesn't make any sense. And I know there's no reason you can't find bid and win profitable contracts because I've interviewed plethora of people who have, whether they invested in my coaching or they just watched a video or they bought my book at winnerswaybook.com or on Amazon, Kizzy Parks. You can do the same. Next, facility management. Since there is now this executive order mandating government employees to go back to the office, you're going to see an uptick in what? Waste. Use of toilet paper, paper towels. For a building to go from maybe people check in once or twice a week till now there's a rush of people, they're going to need more services. Just about 10 minutes ago, I went on Sam.Gov, and under small business set aside, there's an opportunity for admin and facility management services. There's no reason you can't bid on these. You don't have to have an expertise or a background in facility management and waste management. You simply partner with someone. You don't have to own the building. These are areas for you to easily subcontract, middleman out, as long as they're not controversial. Don't want to get into that space. Another area, this is one I love and I talk about a lot, because regardless of who's president, they're going to need this. Just like with bureaus of prison, there's always going to be a need to provide products and services to the bureaus of prison. There's always going to be that. And you definitely want to look into it because they buy a lot. Now, one thing they're not buying, just to add, is the gender reassignment, because they were in the previous administration. And some of you may have come across it, some of you may not have, but on Sam.Gov, there was a sources sought notice for gender reassignment surgery both ways, and they were looking for hospitals and physicians who could do that. Not anymore. So one area that is not controversial and there's always a demand for, and that is religious services. The various military locations, Army, Air, some Naval, have a chapel and they need people to work in the chapel. Keep in mind that for a lot of these areas that I've talked about, we have contracts in. We've had contracts in. These may not be contracts where you go from the way you live today to now you have a 100-foot yacht. These are contracts that are multi-year. They're giving you money every single month. It could be a couple hundred, it could be 1,000, which is life-changing. According to statistics, the average side hustle yields a little over $900 a month. Who doesn't want an extra $900 a month? Everybody wants an extra $900 a month, even if they're worth billions, because it's ongoing revenue. It's not a one and done type of opportunity. So look into the religious opportunities, and they often will need these inside of prisons and sometimes in courtrooms, courthouses, those type of scenarios too. Now, if you've come this far in the video and you're thinking, I just don't know. There's always state and local. It doesn't mean that state and local is exempt from what is going on at the federal level. They're all connected, whether it's a blue state, a red state, or one of the Rust Belt states that go back and forth. They're all connected. You have to ask yourself, what are you willing to sell? Are you so caught up in emotion that it's now jaded what you're willing to do as a business owner, as a solopreneur, as an aspiring entrepreneur? Or are you willing to do what's necessary to find, bid, and win federal government contracts and potentially state level contracts? Only you know that answer. What I can say to you is as follows. I have been in this space since 2007. Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, and Trump have all been president while I've been in this space. We've won millions upon millions in federal government contracts. And the reason that this has happened is not because I got so caught up in my emotions. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, there were moments, especially early on, that I was very emotional. I was in my Drake. I was having some problems, y'all. I was definitely having problems, okay? But that's why I'm here, so you don't have to go through what I went through. We won a substantial number of contracts under the Trump administration the first time. And I will also share this, because I don't see this anywhere. I see a lot about DEI. DEI is dead, but here's what I don't see. During his first administration, we were in 8A. And at that time, COVID was going on, and it was beyond difficult to get in contact with government agencies because of what was going on with COVID. During his administration, they added an extra year to 8As if you met a certain criteria. So instead of having 9 years in the program, we ended up with 10. And that in and of itself allowed us to get a $10 million contract just by having that one extra year. So if at the end of the day, the belief that the president is not for us and doesn't care and the whole world's going to crumble, then why were 8As given an extra year? Feel free to look it up because again, nobody's talking about it. So focus on what you can do. Look at opportunities under Bureau of Prison. Look at opportunities concerning buildings, concerning facility management, concerning janitorial, and my favorite, religious opportunities. We have several employees who work for us in the great state of Hawaii under a religious contract. So again, check out my book, winnerswaybook.com. I love and adore each and every one of you. There's no reason you can't win a contract. Just don't go after anything around diversity or things that are controversial. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Please do. Because of y'all, we got a silver play button. And don't think because it's not behind me that we don't have it, but we have it because of each and every one of you. And I love and adore you. And I just ran into an amazing GovCon winner the other day at O'Hare Airport. So I love that. He was traveling with his wife. So that was beautiful. Get into the Facebook group. I'll make sure we have the link in the comment below. And y'all, not only is everything possible, but I'm starting a new channel soon. So get ready. But again, everything is possible. Thank you all. Take care until next time.